Good evening, Chief Reverend Dr. Sri Damananda and Prat Montri, devotees and friends. I welcome you again tonight to listen to our Chief Reverend's talk. Last night we touched on mankind and religion. Mankind includes womankind and mankind. Tonight, following from the religious aspect, we are going into karma and rebirth. So from karma, I think they will be touching a little bit on death. Perhaps Chief would explain what is death and what is rebirth. Whether they are the same thing or not, I do not know. We really have to listen to him. So once again, may I invite our Chief Reverend up here and share with us his wisdom on the Buddhist teaching. Thank you.
Reverend and dear devotees, last night in my talk, I totally forgot to mention about this Buddha Dhamma Center that you have started nearly 2 years ago. I know the main purpose of establishing this separate Buddhist center is not to separate from the other existing Buddhist groups or societies, but to organize certain religious activities according to their convenience and with the cooperations of other Buddhist societies. And I strongly believe that all the existing Buddhist societies here, whether they belong to Mahayana, Theravada, Vajrayana or any Yana, those Yanas are not very important. What is important is the Buddhism. Therefore, work together. When it is necessary to one group, invite the other group and participate in their religious activities and develop the strength and the confidence here, Buddhism in this country. So I really appreciate the effort made by the founders of this Buddha Dhamma Center to promote Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha. Tonight, we discussed last night, we would like to explain karma and rebirth, because there is no Buddhism without karma. There is no karma without rebirth. All are interrelated. The sayings of the Buddha is kammana vattate loko, kammana vattate paja, kamma nibandhana satta, rathasani vayayate. Kammana vattate loko. The world exists because of karma. Karma means action. If there is no action, there is no world. Kammana vattate paja. Living being exists because of karma. If there are no more karmas, no more living beings. Kamma nibandhana satta. All those living beings are bound to their own karma. Rathasani vayayate. Just like a wheel of a vehicle, the life moves. This is the meaning of the Buddha's saying. First we have to talk about karma. Karma or kamma, same meaning, two different languages, Sanskrit and Pali. No one can live even few seconds or few minutes without creating either good karma, neutral karma or bad karma. Divided into three groups, our karma or our action. There are three channels to create this karma. By the mind, by the word and action. Mind alone can create good karma and bad karma without doing anything, without saying anything. But the sayings and doing influenced by the mind. So the mind can create the karma. The words cannot create karma. Action cannot create karma without mind. Mind is responsible. Three kinds of karma: kusala karma, akusala karma, neutral karma. Whenever we do something with good intention, good deeds, good intention, it will become good karma. Whenever we do certain bad thing with bad intention, for bad purpose, it will become akusala karma. Whenever we do something without creating evil thoughts or without creating good thoughts, mere action for our need, then this will become neutral karma. Example, you want to plant vegetable. You fill the soil and put fertilizer and watering and do lot of work. All these are action. But this action never become either kusala karma or akusala karma. You are doing this for your living, for your own benefit. So every day you do a lot of work for your living, for your pleasure, for your enjoyment, for your income. These are not belong either to kusala karma or akusala karma. They are neutral. But the same action you can convert, you can divert to become good karma or bad karma if you use your mind. A very simple example given by a German philosopher in his book. He says, now people want to keep honey in a cup and there is no cover to close it. To protect the honey, what they do, they pour water into this source and keep the honey. What is the purpose? Why do we do that? To protect honey from the ants. Right. By doing that, we have never done any good karma or bad karma. But the same action you can divert into a kusala karma if you think in this way. I keep this honey in this cup in this way so that ants cannot get into this honey, otherwise they may die. I can save their life. Then it will become kusala karma. Same action. Mind can divert either this way or that way. This is the nature of karma. To create a karma, we must have three mental energies. Lobha, dosa, moha. Otherwise we cannot create any karma, either good karma or bad karma. Greed, hatred, ignorance. Because of our greed, we create bad karma. Because of our hatred, we create bad karma. Because of our ignorance, we create bad karma. If the mind is free from these three, we cannot create a bad karma. Now, Arahanta, the Buddhas, Pacceka Buddhas cannot create either good karma or bad karma. Because their minds are completely free from craving, hatred, ignorance. They cannot create any karma. They do lot of good deeds, good work, but they never become good karma like us. Because they have completed their journey. We have not completed our journey. We are on the way. Therefore, we need karma. To them, karmas are useless because they have completed the journey. To create good karma, also we must have craving. Do you agree with me? You cannot create good karma without craving. To create bad karma also we must have craving. You accept, isn't it? Yes. Why do you want to do good karmas? To enjoy your life, to have prosperity, to have long life, to be born in very rich families, to go to heaven and enjoy your life. Do you think there is no craving? Because of that craving, you want to do this good karma. Otherwise, you never do this. Do you know at what stage in our mind we create karma? Can give an example. A man sleep under a mango tree at night time by covering his face completely, but this mango tree is not belong to him. But he does not know that this is a mango tree also. When he was sleeping, he heard something drop, and he doesn't know what it is. While sleeping, all the senses are also cut off from the mind. When that sound, dropping sound, open one channel, this one. Then working with the mind, called ear consciousness, is started to work because of that sound. Now the minds want to know what it is. After that, unveil and go in searching. Saw something. Then another channel open. Eye consciousness also started to work. He can see the object, but he does not know what it is. Then he went and touched and got into hand. Another channel open, sensation. 3 channels are working with the mind. Still he does not know what it is. Now he wants to know whether it is eatable or not. Then smell. Very nice smell. Another channel open. 4 channels are working with the mind. Now he wants to know whether this is sweet or sour. Then eat. Very sweet. He ate the whole. Then the craving developed in the mind. After enjoying the sweetness, craving developed in the mind. Then he thought, why not I climb the tree and pluck churi, pluck the rambutan, what you call mangoes. Karma started from there. Because of that sweetness created craving. Craving created the idea to steal. Now we can understand where are we. Earlier, he did not create any karma. Unless the craving appeared in the mind. So the good and bad karma, both, we commit when the craving is there. After gaining enlightenment, the Buddha said, Visankhara gatang chittang. Now in my mind, there are no karmic seed in my storehouse of consciousness. No more karmic seed to produce karmic effect. Tanhanang kaya majjaga. Tanha, craving is completely eradicated. No more. Natti dani punabbhavo. No more becoming. Again, I had more than enough. I don't like to have another rebirth completed. That is why I told you just now, they have completed their journey. So we are still struggling in this sansara, wheel of sansara, oceans of sansara. We are struggling from our birth up to the last breath. It is a big battle. Now every baby who comes to this world, immediately after birth, what is the first thing that baby does? Cry. Have you ever seen a baby who start to laugh immediately after giving birth? That means indicate the nature of life. We were born to this world to cry, to suffer, start from the beginning. In fact, we come to this world not with birth certificate. We come to this world with death certificate because it is certain. Death certificate is there. Death is certain. From that day onward, up to the last breath, enormous troubles and pains and worries and disturbances and fightings and quarrelings and accusing and blaming and criticizing and condemning, how many thousands and one thing we had to face. Every day we are grumbling, accusing, blaming, no end. How many times a day, how many minutes a day we get the chance to enjoy some sort of pleasure. Enjoying pleasure like fleeting nature, like lightning. That pleasure appear, immediately disappear. Again suffering. This is the nature of pleasure. That is why it is called sukha. It's a very meaningful word, Pali, Sanskrit and various other. Sukha. That means the feeling that we experience as pleasure is not even 1 second. Sukha. That one disappears. Instant. Any kind of sukha cannot continue. Appear, immediately disappear. After that, followed by dukkha. Suffering. Sukha and dukkha. When there is no dukkha, when the mind is neutral, then we experience little bit of sukha. Otherwise, no sukha in this life. Again, to make use of this life, we have very short period. A person who lives 100 years, how many years he sleeps? Work out every day how many hours this person sleeps, daytime and night time. At least half of his time, his or her time, is spent for sleeping. Again, how many years this person spent in childhood? You must know there is life in this body. Whether it is dead body or life one, you must know. Otherwise, if you do something thinking this is a dead body, you cannot create bad karma, although there is life, because you are not aware of it. There are some Buddhist stories also. I remember one day, when I was walking early morning around the fountain, I saw one snail upside down. Then I thought, it's a dead one. Only a dead one, you turn this way. So I picked up and threw away and turned into pieces. Then I saw the muscles jumping. Living one. But I never knew this is a living one. Therefore, I did not create any bad karma because I am not aware of that. Very reasonable way Buddha introduced this dharma, not as a law. There must be awareness of that. Then third one, vadaka chitta, must have idea to kill with bad intention. Either anger, jealousy or grudge or enmity or ill will, or there must be something, greed. With that intention, you create the idea that you want to kill. That idea must be there. Without creating that idea, in the process of you are doing something, you may kill so many others. You may kill human beings also. You cannot create bad karma. Because idea of killing is not implanted, not appeared in the mind. That mental pollution creates the karma, not the action. Next one, upakkapa, method. There is a life, we know it is a living one, and we created idea to kill, completed all the three. But we did not do anything. Then we cannot create karma. We didn't do anything to kill. Then we had to do either shooting or beating or poisoning or stabbing or then fourth method also completed. So completed all the four methods, but the man or the animal did not die. You have not completed all the path. Escape from the death. You beat, you shot, you poisoned, you stabbed, but still did not die. Not completed. If that person died because of your action, then all the five factors complete. Then it will become karma patha. Karma patha means the karma that it is very difficult to change by using another good karma. Now this is very important issue. Now you have completed only four factors, but the person did not die. You created certain minor karma. They are not karma patha, they are not heavy karma. These karmas can be toppled, can be suspended, can be prolonged by using some other good karma. But after fulfilling these five, the karma that we have completed, not so easy to overcome, not so easy to prolong, not easy to avoid by using some other good karma. You understand the point now? Because all our karmas that we accumulate during our lifetime won't create the effect like this. During mango season or rambutan season, you can see the whole tree completely full of flowers. Millions of flowers. Whole tree is covered with flowers. Of course, each flower produces one fruit. But later, you notice maybe 4 or 5 fruits, all the others disappear. Our karmas are like that. Throughout our lifetime, we accumulate good and bad, good and bad, good and bad karma. But when the time comes to effect, fruition, 1 or 2 karmas, all the others, some of them withdraw, some of them remain in the waiting list, waiting for the chances, some evaporated. Not strong enough. Good karma and bad karma. This karma is a very deep subject. If you can understand how reasonable, sensible, meaningful way the Buddha has introduced this. Not blindly just to accept. Then karma create the effect on 3 occasions. Within this lifetime. If no effect within this lifetime, that karma disappears, no more. Another karma, not within this lifetime, hereafter, after our death, when rebirth takes place, only during that lifetime. If there is no effect during that lifetime, that karma also disappears. Because not strong enough to carry forward. And some other karmas remain, follow us just like our shadow. As long as we exist in the samsara, these karmas also follow us. Never withdraw. The Buddha started how many millions of years ago? But even after gaining enlightenment, becoming a Buddha, 12 kind of karmas followed him. Never give up. Very minor thing. Followed him. He had to suffer from 12 kind of sicknesses because of this karma. We do not know because he explained to others, do you know why I am suffering from this thing? Oh, this is the nature of karma. Karma has no favoritism. This is a religious man, this is a wicked man, this is a good man, this is a child, this is a useful man. Karma has no favoritism. That means karma is neither cruel nor kind. Neutral. Just like electricity. A child go and touch when there is an electric shortage. A small innocent child get electric shock and die. And I go and touch the same wire, not knowing this is so dangerous. I also get the same electric shock and die. And one of you also go and touch. You also get the same electric shock. So this electronic, this energy, never consider. This is a small child, not nice to attack. This is a religious man, not nice to attack. And this is a poor man, not nice to attack. No such discrimination. Now you can understand the nature of karma. So, by praying and worshipping and offerings and burning papers and joysticks and slaughtering animals to escape from the bad effect, karma never forgive you. Remember that. You cannot influence the karma. Otherwise, that electric shock that we had, you go and bring some joystick and kneel down and pray, say please in future if innocent child come and try, don't attack and pray. It doesn't work. No meaning at all. Our duty is to know how to handle, how to deal with these things carefully. That is why knowledge is important. Now you are here to gain some knowledge, some understanding. That knowledge is important in future for you to practice when you are going to do something. To take precaution, to consider very carefully, to think twice, because you have some sort of understanding. Then, forgiveness of sin. Buddhism completely rejects this. It is clearly mentioned in Dhammapada. Suddhi asuddhi pacchattan nanya manya visodhaye. Purity and impurity of our mind we maintain individually. One person cannot purify the other person's mind. One person cannot pollute the other person's mind. This is the nature of the mind. The Buddha cannot change my mind. If my mind is not ready to listen, to accept what he said, then I purify the mind. Buddha cannot purify that. I cannot pollute your mind. Now I scold you by using all the vulgar, wicked words. If you listen to me with smiling face, without showing your anger or anything, my scolding cannot pollute your mind. If you take these words seriously, if you get angry, then you polluted your own mind. Others cannot do. People always say, what to do, that man make me angry. Man cannot make you angry, you make you angry. Man did something, man said something, by taking that you created anger. Man cannot create anger in your mind. That is why we have to learn how to guard the mind. So, this forgiveness of sin, not practical at all. Then there is a weakness. The followers of other religions come and tell you, You are very unfortunate. Your Buddha says, nobody can forgive your sin. Buddha also cannot forgive your sin. But our God says He can forgive your sin. See how unfortunate you are. Then you say, Yala. You believe that. You believe that, what He said. Just only saying. But you never think whether it is possible or not. How can another person, if Buddha says He cannot forgive your sin, God cannot forgive your sin. Sin is not in the body. What is sin? Mental pollution we created by doing that bad thing. That is called sin or bad karma. Then what is there for God to take from that mind to purify it? Is He going to take away the whole mind or the brain? It doesn't work. That is what the Buddha says very clearly. Another person cannot do this. But if you are wise, you can do that. If there is anybody to forgive your sin, you are the only one who can do that. Buddha cannot, God cannot, nobody else cannot. Now there is hope. Formerly you are hopeless because there is nobody to forgive your sin. Now you realize you can forgive your sin. How? We have done some bad karma due to our ignorance, misunderstanding, shortcoming, or greed, or anger. We realized. We know these things are wrong, what I have done. Definitely these things create bad effect. You realized. So by praying and worshipping, asking to forgive the sin, nothing doing. It never works. Then what you have to do? You have to create determination in your mind not to repeat, not to do such bad deeds in future. That is the first step. Now, which is more practical? Which is more meaningful? Simply go and worship and pray to God, asking forgiveness, or to create the idea or determination not to do such bad thing in future, which is more practical? You can understand. Then the second step. From that day onward, you must try to do more good karmas. What is good karma? By doing some service to others to release their sufferings and worries and disturbances. That is called good karma. Do more and more service to others. Then your good karma become heavy and heavy and heavy and heavy and bigger and bigger and bigger. Third stage. You have to reduce your greed, your selfishness, your anger, your jealousy, your grudge, your ill will from your mind. Then what will happen? You get the chance to overcome the bad effect of the karma you have committed earlier. Because you have stopped repeating, you have done more good karma, heavy karma, again you maintain some sort of purity in your mind. Overcome. Bad karma had no chance to catch you. But do you think by doing that all your bad karmas completely washed away? What do you think? No, never. They remain. They remain in the waiting list, waiting for a chance. You are also clever. In the next life also, you do more and more and more and good deeds and good karmas, again have another better rebirth, bad karma had no chance to catch you again. Then you continue this, life after life. one day you attain arahanthood. Bad karma follow up to the doorstep. Cannot catch you anymore. You attain nirvana. Bad karma withdraw. See how you have forgotten your sin? Is it practical or not? This is the Buddhist method. Simply by praying to God, very easy. There is no problem at all. On the other hand, indirectly encourage you to do that. This week you go and ask forgiveness, and you come back and do the same thing. Again next week you go and ask to forgive. Do the same thing. Indirectly encourage you to do the same thing. I cannot understand there is any reason. This forgiveness of sin. So, last night I mentioned how we have become sinners in my talk. And we are not sinners. Every day we are committing sin, although we don't use the word sin. The meaning of sin is violating the laws given by the God. That is called sin. We don't violate any of the laws given by the God. We do bad things, bad karma, not sin. No religious laws in Buddhism. All are advices. Just like a father advising his sons and daughters by touching their head. My dear son, my dear girl, please don't do this. If you do this, you have to suffer. The Buddha's way of teaching is exactly like that. He said, I advise you not to do bad things. I am telling you this according to my own experience, not as a theory, not as a philosophy, not as a message given to me by a God, not as a religious law, my own experience. During my previous birth, so many previous births, I have done a lot of bad things. I can understand how I had to suffer for all these bad deeds. So I am telling you according to my experience, my dear children, please. You also can experience the same thing what I had. I advise you to do some good deed, do some service to others. That is also I am telling you according to my own experience. I have done lot of good deeds during my previous birth. I can remember how I enjoyed my life, peaceful, pleasurable and wonderful, contented life because of all the good deeds. So I advise you also to do the same thing so that you also can experience this. No religious law, no commandment, no punishment, nothing. Advice. The Buddha's teaching is nothing but advice. It is for us to think and use our effort to follow his advice, not as a law. Now if you say, oh, I don't like to kill, because the Buddha says we should not kill, you are wrong. As if that you cannot understand that killing is bad. If you cannot understand, again the Buddha says like this. Attanang upamang kattva nahaneya naghataye. When another person come and try to kill you, either by shooting or stabbing or beating, how do you feel? Right? When another person come and try to kill you, how do you feel? You become so painful, miserable, worry and tempted, enormous troubles and problems and fear. Tension. And when you are going to do this to another person, that person also experience the same thing that you experience. This is more than enough for you to understand why it is bad. See the Buddha's way of teaching. Now you cannot say, oh, I cannot understand why killing is bad. If you experience any pain, any fear, any tension, other living beings also experience the same thing. Attanang upamankatva, by considering your way of life with the other person, nahaneya nagate, better not to harm, not to kill others. That is for your own benefit. Again he says, if you love your life, please don't harm another living being. If they had very strong supportive karma to support them, that effect they cannot experience immediately. It takes time until the supportive karma weakens. You know very well. Few months ago, I think more than 6-7 months ago, there was one man called, one Indian, Kalimuttu. I think you have read in the newspaper. Kalimuttu, who has killed 17 innocent people. Killed. He escaped. The police came to catch him, also he shot. But last moment, he was shot dead. He could not escape. Because no more supportive karma now. Many years ago, I don't know whether you can remember, at least 20 years ago, there was a very dangerous man, Chinese. Can you remember his name? Botachi. Botachi. Very dangerous man. He had done lot of damages. But he was caught, sentenced to death, and he donated his eyes also to a blind man. Such a dangerous, cruel man donated his eyes before he pledged to donate eyes. He was caught, sentenced to death. Few months ago, in Colombia, drugs king, who has shaken the government also could not catch him. Finally, he was caught on the roof of a building, shot dead. Time. When the supportive karma is weakened, then yes. The Buddha says this very clearly. When you catch a crab and put into, and this crab going on playing and jumping here and there until the water becomes so hot, then only experience the bad effect. In the same manner, at the beginning when we do bad thing, we don't experience. We enjoy, we laugh. But when the water becomes hot, we had it. This is the nature of karma. So, karma, existence never takes place. We cannot empty our storehouse of consciousness, because life after life was deposited. What we are doing here as living, accumulated. Again, we are accumulated some more new. Thought, word, action. When we develop hatred, when we hate another person, when we develop enmity, we create bad karma. We never think that. Mind alone creates bad karma without doing anything. There are three things that mind creates bad karma without doing anything. Craving for others' property by thinking, how nice if he died. Especially sons also create sons think, how nice if this old man died earlier, I can take all the property, the father. Yes, there are people. And certain sons have kept time bomb in their plane, even the father was traveling, for him to die earlier. That kind of craving. Craving with the intentions of harming or praying for his or her death. That thought itself creates bad karma. No need to do anything. The other one is called Micchaditti. There are 10 kinds of Micchadittis. I have no time to explain like this. I don't believe what these religions and gods and Buddhas and all those people say. Feed them to do anything. There is no such thing as good things or bad things. What I can do. That kind of belief. And Who cares for father and mother? Who are they? Why should we respect them? Why should we look after them? Why should we worship them? Who are they? They are also human beings. Those who maintain such belief create bad karma. And this is the only life. After my death, there is nothing. There is anything, whatever I like. I don't believe what religion says there will be hell and heaven or another life, all rubbish. This kind of belief create bad karma. Because these are poisonous thoughts. Pollute the mind. That mental pollution creates. Then the words and action you can understand. How we create bad karma. Then the good karma. To do good karma also we must have craving, just now I mentioned. Many people want to go to heaven and enjoy and play mahjong there. To be born in a very rich family. To enjoy life. Long life. These are the things that they expect. But the Buddha says, if you limit the real religious value of your good karma, you abuse the validity of karma. You should not develop your craving by doing this good deed. You have to create your mind in this way. Create thoughts in this way. By the virtues of this merit that I have done, may I get the chance to reduce my greed, my selfishness, my anger, my jealousy, my stupidity, my evil thoughts, to cultivate my compassion, kindness, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Then you appreciate the real value of this good karma. Because those things are means to an end. That means what you wanted, you gain. But after experiencing, no more. Finish. Now by doing good karma, you want to be born in a rich family. Yes, you have the opportunity. Now you are in good family. You have very good property. But nobody knows how you use this property. You can use for bad, wicked, cruel, dangerous things also. Or if not, you can use some good purposes. After that, after your death from that life, what is the fate? What is the destiny? What guarantee is there? Nobody knows what will happen to that. That is the end of it. But when you develop your mind in this way, by the power of this merit, may I gain more knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and good qualities and virtues, then this will become your mental habit. In the next life, you get more, better understanding, better knowledge, more wisdom, deeper understanding, become more virtuous. Then again, next life, life after life, until you attain nirvana, you can carry these meritorious support. See the difference. So there are two words here. Punya kamma and kusala kamma. Punya kamma for enjoyment, for pleasure, for long life, for prosperity, only within this lifetime. After that, nothing. In the next life again, you have to accumulate, you have to do. Otherwise, nobody knows what will happen to the life. But when we develop our punya kusala, to gain more knowledge and wisdom and energy and effort, then we can continue life after life, life after life. Multiply, developing and developing and developing until we attain nirvanic bliss or Buddhahood or Arhathood. See the difference now. Now, rebirth. Karma, I think we can talk for so many days about karma. So I stopped about karma, now rebirth. Rebirth meaning after our death, life again appears. That is called rebirth. But we do not know what sort of life we get. It depends not according to our wish or our anxiety or our imagination. Karma is responsible for that. Kammang satte vibhajati adidang hina panitata. The karma is the deciding factor. After our death, where to go? People say that they don't believe. Not necessary to believe. Belief is not important. Things are happening in this world, not according to our belief. They are natural occurrences, whether we believe or not. Birth, not necessary to believe. It is natural. Sicknesses, natural. Old age, natural. Death is natural, not necessary to believe. Believe or not, we have to face it. After our death, if anything happens, that is also natural, not according to our belief. Remember it. Belief is not important. You can say, I don't believe it. It doesn't matter. Things will happen according to the nature. You cannot change the nature according to your way of thinking. A Christian friend asked this question from a Buddhist. Can you tell me actually what will happen to you after your death? Then he said, if anything happened to you after your death, I think same thing happened to me also. No extraordinary happening. Then he asked, how can you say like this? Buddhist says they can become animals or ghosts or spirits or devils or devas or this or that. That is their belief. I am not talking about belief. I answer your question. Same thing will happen to me also. This is the correct answer. Because it is natural. So, whether we believe or not, we have more than enough evidence to prove, without depending on any religion, that it is true. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, these three religions never believe. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and so many other isms believe that there will be rebirth. That is their religious label. Today, people have discovered so many things to prove without depending on any religion. Religion is not important to understand whether there will be another life or not. Let us take hypnotism. In the West, it is very popular. When they hypnotize the person, then that person started to talk entirely different language that person never studied within this lifetime, then go on down and down and down and down to the next life. Next means last birth. Then the names and particulars, all the details, family names and jobs and what they have done, everything. All the others go and investigate it. 100% correct what this person has said. That means, in our subconscious mind, all these memories are deposited. Now we cannot bring them up because other day-to-day activities submerge. So when we attain Arahanta and Buddhahood, all these rubbish we take out from the mind, then those previous memories come back one after the other. If they won't. That is why the Buddha has explained what he has done during so many previous births. Before enlightenment, he doesn't know anything about all these things. Hypnotism is one of the best, evidence to prove. Many people who practice this are not Buddhists. They don't believe. And there was a well-known psychiatrist in America. You might have heard his name. His name was Dr. Edgar Cayce. He had a very peculiar sickness. So many doctors have condemned as incurable sickness. But he did not give up hope. What he did, he developed his psychic power, get into trance, without depending on any god or any religion. Pure psychological approach. After developing, he got what he wanted. He got the name of a medicine for his sickness. Got cured. When this news spread, more and more people started to come. Then he get into trance. He said, yes, this is the medicine for you. He prescribed. For certain cases, he said, I'm sure. Not sure, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, there is no cure for your sickness. Because this is the bad effect of the bad deeds that you have done during your previous birth. It is not so easy to cure this sickness. But when he is normal, he doesn't know anything about previous birth or this or that. He was not a Buddhist. He doesn't believe there is a rebirth. But when he gets into trance, he says, oh, this is the bad effect of your bad deeds you have done during the previous birth, difficult to cure. If you happen to go there, Virginia, America, that place is still open. He has recorded 20,000 cases in his book that he attended. Dr. Edgar Cayce. There's a book also, a very big book written about it. So, that's why I told you, religion is not important to understand that rebirth is natural. Again, how many hundreds, if not in thousands, how many hundreds of children suddenly remember their previous birth? In every country. Then start to tell. Their house is such and such place, their father is there, mother is there, sisters are there, brothers are there, this, all the details. Then people go and interview, record. Then go and investigate according to information. Correct? Very far away. There was a case in Sri Lanka. A 7-year-old girl started to tell that I want to go and see my father and mother, telling to her own father and mother. They thought this girl is mad. No, my house is there, such and such place. I want to go and see my father and mother. But somehow or the other, they had to carry this child. According to her instruction, they have went to that house. I recognize this is my father, this is my mother, this is my younger sister, this is my elder sister. Then the headmaster who taught this previous birth also came. This is my teacher who taught me. Previous birth he was a boy and become a girl, this birth. All the detail. Then he asked one thing. What happened to the Queen Victoria's picture which was here on this wall? This child remembered because that picture was missing on that day. What happened to Queen Victoria's picture? It is missing on that day. Written a book. Another boy, 9 years old. Every evening he sit down, close his eyes, go reciting all the long sutras. Without any book. Without making a single mistake. Go on reciting. Even I also cannot recite these sutras without making mistake. Very long sutras. I got the tape recorded by American psychiatrist Ivan Stevens, recorded by him. I got the tape. And this child says he was a Buddhist scholar monk. He studied Pali language. He mastered Pali language. His memory still remained there. Then he said, he attended the Buddha's funeral. Can you imagine? 2538 years ago. This child says, I attended the Buddha's funeral. He said, what is mentioned in Mahaparinirvana Sutra about his cremation of his Buddha's dead body? It is mentioned that nobody set fire into the funeral fire. Automatically the fire started. Also said the same thing. Nobody set fire to the funeral mission. Automatically the fire started. That memory is there. Then how did this child maintain this memory for 2500 years? Can you imagine? Do you believe this? First I want to know whether you believe this or not. Then how can you believe? There must be reason for you to believe. What do you think? It is not impossible. Possible. But you know the reason why. You know, after our birth, according to our aspiration, the rebirth takes place according to our own karma. Our life becomes pleasurable or miserable, fortunate or unfortunate, according to our own karma, not another person's karma. I am responsible for my own karma, not your own karma. So I had to create enough karma while enjoying. Now you are fortunate because you have done some good karma. But if you keep quiet by spending all your karmas, and you do not know what will happen to you in the next birth. So you have to accumulate some more karma for the next life. Only human beings can understand that, others cannot understand. That means you can prepare for the next life. Others do not know how to prepare. When you suffer also you can think, I am suffering because I have not done enough karma. Therefore, I must do more and more good karma. Then the next life becomes fortunate. So rebirth is not created by God, not created by Buddha. It is natural. And there are reasons why rebirth takes place, whether we like or not. We have three kinds of craving. Because of this craving, rebirth takes place. When these three kinds of craving completely withdraw, no more rebirth. Stop. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. We have craving for kama, pleasure, enjoyment, sensual pleasure, very strong karma. We are willing to spend millions of dollars for enjoyment. That craving is so strong. And that craving, that pleasure later create disappointment, frustrations, unhappiness, or worries. This is the nature of enjoyment. Next one is bhavatanha. Existence and becoming again, craving. We want to exist. We want to survive. We want to live, even at the risk of millions of others. We are willing to kill even 1 million of other living beings for our living, for ourselves. See how strong our craving for living. Then we like to have better rebirth. We crave to be born again. That craving again supports us to remain. We want to go to heaven, we want to become human beings, we want to go and enjoy. But all these things are changeable, changing. Bhavatanha. Craving for non-existence. You can understand this. Some people, when they get fed up, they commit suicide. That is craving for non-existence. Due to unsatisfied craving. When they could not gain what they wanted, they decide to commit suicide. That craving is called craving for non-existence. If not, some others think. This is the only life. No more life. I don't believe. I don't like. This is the end. It is due to frustration, disappointment, unsatisfactory. This is also craving for non-existence. Because it is wrong. There is no such thing. Another thing. The things that we like so much, we don't allow others to use. We are willing to burn them, destroy them, without allowing others to use them. See how wicked we are. That is also under craving for non-existence. Crave not to exist, such thing. If rebirth take place because of this. By keeping these three kinds of craving, we cannot say, oh, no more rebirth, so I don't believe in rebirth. Not necessary. By knowing this repeated birth and death and birth and death and birth and death gives more trouble, more headache, more pain, more suffering, then we want to see the end of it, to stop it. What do we gain? Nothing. Nothing but suffering. Then stop this. After that, no old age, no sickness, no death, no worries, no crying, no fighting, no quarreling, completely free. Nobody to fight. That is called final goal. That is the aim of our life, to see the end of our suffering. Otherwise, always complain and complain and complain. So rebirth is natural, not created by anybody. No one can stop it. But we can stop it by working for that. If you don't like it, as the Buddha said, Nathidani punabhavo. No more punabhava becoming again, because I had more than enough. He realized what it is. But still we have not realized. We are willing to suffer, but like to exist. That is ignorance. Because of our ignorance, we crave for existence. In spite of suffering and suffering and suffering, we crave for existence. One day definitely we have to stop this. Otherwise no end. This is the nature of karma and rebirth. Again, after our death, rebirth can take place in 31 planes of existence, not only as human being. Hell, the spirit world, ghost world, animals, according to our karmas. Then human being. 6 kinds of Devaloka, heaven, 6 kinds of heaven. 16 kinds of Brahma world, higher than Devas. Then one particular area, mind without body. No visible physical body, but mental energy, life process exists. Only in Brahma world. 31 planes of existence. So rebirth can take place in many of these places according to our own karma. Becoming human being is not so easy. If we abuse our human life, if we misuse our human life, it is not so easy to become human being again. We have to start again from the beginning, just like climbing Mount Everest. Very easy to go down, but very hard to climb up. We have climbed up to maximum level. This is the highest level. Human life is the center, in between heaven and hell. Not any other life. We are very close to heaven. Heaven means not another world. Heaven means complete freedom, liberation, salvation and happiness. We are also very close to hell. Why? When we abuse human life, again goes down. That is hell. When we appreciate human life without misusing, heaven. But other living beings are very far away from heaven and from hell also, very far away. So this is the real nature of human life. We have not realized. Kicho manussa patilabho, Buddha says. Becoming a human being is very, very, very difficult. When you compare human life with other living beings in this world, very few human beings in this world. Very difficult. Although people are struggling for family planning, thinking overpopulated, it's not overpopulated actually, when you compare with other living beings. So very fortunate. Only human being can become Buddha. A Deva or Brahma or God cannot become Buddha. Our intelligence is very advanced, but we are not find in human body. But in other living beings, there are valuable things. Their teeth, their eyes. People can make lot of money. Elephant tusk. But what can people gain by selling anything from our body? Our teeth, how much we can sell? Is there anybody to buy our teeth? Our skin? Our bones? Nobody. That is why yesterday I told you, the human life is the weakest living being in this world. Last night I told you, isn't it? Weakest among all the other living beings. And body also useless. Values we can find only human mind, not in the body. That intelligence, wisdom, sense of reasoning, all are in the mind, not in the body. That is why we are called Manushya, the developed mind we have. So religion is to tell what to do with this life, how to get rid of these burdens and responsibilities and suffering, and how to find out the salvation, final goal. In 1 hour 45 minutes today. Reverend, you have no question? After that? It's a big question. The belief that people maintain after our death, our departed spirit, there is no such thing as spirit, departed consciousness is the correct word. The departed consciousness remain for a certain period in searching a suitable place. That belief is not agreeable with the Buddha's teaching. There is no interval, gap in between death and rebirth. Rebirth means concept. It is like this. When you throw a stone, that stone cannot remain halfway without dropping. Must drop. When you shoot a bullet or an arrow, the Buddha says, Vinyanam Matukut, that departed person's consciousness transmit, enter into a mother's womb. Cannot remain without entering. Either in the dustbin, yes, it is also womb, dustbin, must enter into that. And then develop. But in that consciousness, there are some bhava. These 5 energies are there. Avidya means our ignorance. Ignorance is mental energy. That ignorance nurtured, supported us to maintain these ideas. Therefore, ignorance is responsible for that. Trishna, our craving, just now I mentioned, craving for pleasure, craving for existence, craving for non-existence, we must have craving in that consciousness. Karma. Throughout our lifetime, we create good karma and bad karma. Karmic energy must be there as ingredients. Upadana, grasping power, attachment, inclination towards something which we have developed during our lifetime. Our attachment. Then, karma bhava. Now, according to our karma, where this life will be departed. Destiny. So before we depart from here, that consciousness grasps the object according to the karma. Where this departed consciousness proceeds, whether Devaloka or Manusaloka or animals or Brahma, devils or ghosts or spirit or this or that, already decided. Not after departing from here. With the consciousness, then depart. And no soul. The word soul is the imagination of the consciousness. So do you like to have another rebirth? If no other choice, what to do, isn't it? Now that is the answer. If there is no other choice, we have to face it. In my case, I have no ambition, anxieties, or aspiration for anything. That I want to be so and so after my death. It is up to the karma. I don't bother about it. I never think of that. After my death, I want to be so and so. Such idea never appeared in my mind. It is up to my karma, that's all. But definitely not heaven. Yes, as Ingersoll mentioned, one American writer, very learned, H.G. Wells, Bernard Shaw, and Bertrand Russell's, all are in hell. He says, if I go to hell, I can have a nice time with those intellectuals. Heaven is good for playboys, not for me. In the same manner, I have no idea of going to heaven. Karma? No, only after attaining. Only after attaining. And just now I told you, the Buddha also had to suffer certain bad karma. They remain as long as the physical body exists. Physical body. So the physical body experience what they call some sort of sicknesses, but the mind never create worriment or frustration because they have no craving. The body. As long as the body remains, the karma also remains there. But after they are dead, nothing. Yeah, it is lokika. There are two kinds of jhana. Lokika jhana, most of them bound to this world. These jhana factors, supernormal, supernatural power, and still they have mental defilement. They have suppressed only Kamachanda, Vyapada, Thirmidda, Uddhacha, Kukucha. These 5 mental hindrances, they have suppressed. But there are many other defilements still active in the mind. So jhana meditators cannot attain nirvana until they shift over to vipassana. Vipassana is the last item to eradicate all the defilement from the mind. So, but jhana meditation develops the miraculous power, supernatural power, supernormal power, like Moggallana to perform through their meditation. When they attain arahanthood also, they can perform. But other arahantas who practice vipassana, they cannot perform any miraculous power. Only purity, perfection in the mind. So those who have attained jhanic power again drop to the ground completely. What happened to Devadatta, who developed to appear and disappear, to transform into this figure and that figure through jhanic power? But his craving, that is the uncertainty of jhanic power. I do not catch really. If you come near, easy to understand. So you are very far. Formerly you were very close to us, now you are very far. To be reborn. Oh yes, it depends up to them. Their aspiration, their ambition, it's actually if karma supported. But aspiration alone cannot do that if there are no supportive karma. Is like a bird who tries to fly without wings, Quite possible. Anyway, still got time for me to think, whether I go to heaven or somewhere else, still I got time. Come back to this world. to Kuching. Not bad. It's good. Actually, my idea is, if not eradicated all my defilement, to become a human being again, can do better service. I'll be happy if I become a human being again. 1 minute more. Who is the luckiest one to ask the last question? It's life. Become? That is what I mentioned just now in my talk. Uncertainty in our life. And within this lifetime, we lead a very peaceful, happy, contented, prosperous life. But never think of the next life to prepare something. That means every day you go and withdraw your bank account without depositing more money into the bank. Exactly like that. One day you become bankrupt, nothing in the bank. Just now I mentioned this also. Kusala karma and punya karma. Punya is to aspire for worldly pleasure and worldly happiness and satisfaction in this lifetime will be ended in the next lifetime. Therefore, in the next lifetime, again you have to continue. Oh, you may forget, you may go astray. But if you develop your aspiration in this way to gain more knowledge, more wisdom, more compassion, more kindness, more understanding, then this will become your mental habit. In the next life, you get more facilities to continue until you attain Nirvana. Now the Buddha, every lifetime, by practicing paramitas and perfection, by the virtues of these paramitas, may I gain my enlightenment, not for my own benefit, not for my own salvation, but to save others, to enlighten others. That was his aspiration, life after life. Okay? One more. Aspiration and credit. Craving. Oh, craving is for worldly material thing, for pleasure. The word craving. Aspiration means aiming at a particular object.